My brothers and sisters, let me teach you something today that will shift the way you live, love, and lead, because the truth is it's not what happens to you that breaks you. It's what you allow to happen in you. Before you ever lose your temper, before you ever raise your voice, before that fire in your chest starts to rise, something happens in your mind. That's where the war begins. That's where the trigger is pulled. It is not what they said. It's what you thought about what they said. It's not even what they did, it's what you believed it meant. And if the enemy can hijack your thinking, he doesn't have to touch your life, because your emotions will take care of destroying your peace all by themselves. Let me teach you something that will change your life if you truly grab hold of it. You are not your emotions. You have emotions. You feel them, but you are not owned by them. Emotions are like children. They can ride in the car, but they cannot drive it. You must be the one at the wheel. The mind is the driver's seat. And if you do not take control of your thoughts, your moods will end up taking you places your destiny never meant for you to go. The mind is the womb of your emotions. Whatever you meditate on, you magnify, and whatever you magnify, you multiply. You think about a small slight long enough, and it becomes an offense. You dwell on a painful word long enough, and it becomes an identity. But when your mind is under your control, when you learn how to filter what comes in, and what stays out, you begin to master your mood. That's not magic, that's discipline, that's maturity. Now, don't confuse this with repression. I'm not telling you to pretend you don't feel. I'm not telling you to become cold or numb. What I'm saying is that you don't allow a temporary emotion to become a permanent mindset. Because if you don't master that feeling will master you. Emotions are signals, not sovereigns. They're indicators, not dictators. You have to begin asking yourself, when a situation arises, is this real, or is this a story my mind is telling me? Because most of the time, it's not what happened, it's the story we tell ourselves about what happened that causes us to blow up. That person didn't text you back, and your mind said, they're ignoring me. Somebody criticized your work, and your mind said, I'm not good enough. Someone corrected you, and your mind shouted, they're trying to control me. And now you're angry, now you're offended, now you're emotionally spiraling, all because your mind wrote a narrative that had no foundation in truth. You must become the editor of your thoughts. You must interrupt the lies before they become laws in your life. Every emotion is tied to a thought. Change the thought, and you shift the emotion. That's why Romans 12 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformation doesn't start with a new job or a new relationship, it starts with a new way of thinking. When people say, I just couldn't help getting angry, what they often mean is, I didn't pause to evaluate what I was thinking. You can't control what someone says to you, but you can control what you say to yourself afterward, and that's where the power is. It's not in shouting louder than them, it's in speaking peace to yourself. Mastery takes training, it takes self-awareness, it takes asking yourself, why did that bother me so much? Sometimes the anger isn't even about what just happened, it's about what it reminded you of. It touched a wound you didn't even know was still bleeding. So you lash out, not because the moment was big, but because the pain beneath it was deep. But when you master your mind, you recognize the trigger and you disarm the bomb. You stop blaming others for what's happening inside you, and you start becoming responsible for your internal world. And hear me, the Holy Spirit will help you with this. God didn't leave you to fight these battles alone. He gave you power, love, and a sound mind, a disciplined, focused, renewed mind. So when offense comes, and it will come, you don't panic. You don't explode, you pause, you breathe, you evaluate the thought, not just the feeling. You say to yourself, is this thought helpful or harmful? Is it true or is it a lie? Is it producing fruit or feeding fear? And when you take that moment, when you seize that mental space, you rob the enemy of his foothold. Master your mind and you will master your mood. And when you master your mood, you'll walk in peace while the world around you panics. You'll have joy while others are bitter. You'll stay focused while others are distracted. You'll rise not because you're lucky, but because your mind is governed by truth and not tossed by emotion. That's how you win. That's how you grow. That's how you live unbothered even when life tries to bother you. The battle is in the mind, and once you win there, the rest will follow. There comes a moment in your journey when you must decide that your peace is more valuable than your pride. When you must come to the realization that not everything requires a reaction and not every offense is meant to be absorbed. Some things are meant to be understood, not internalized. The moment you begin to take everything personally is the moment you begin to give other people control over your emotional life. Let me tell you this. People are not always fighting you. Sometimes they're fighting themselves. And you're just the nearest target. Hurt people don't always bleed quietly. Sometimes they lash out. Sometimes they attack. Sometimes they say things from a broken place that has nothing to do with you. And if you don't have the maturity to discern that, you'll take it personally and poison your own soul. You have to learn the skill, and yes, it is a skill of interpreting behavior without absorbing bitterness. Everybody's tone doesn't need to become your tension. Everybody's energy doesn't need to enter your spirit. You can observe something without becoming emotionally entangled in it. You can witness ignorance without entertaining it. You can recognize immaturity without lowering your standard to match it. Because here's the truth. People act out of who they are, not who you are. When someone gossips about you, lies on you, ignores you, or even tries to provoke you, they're revealing more about the condition of their heart than the content of your character. So don't confuse their issues with your identity. What they say doesn't define you. What they do doesn't destroy you. It only has power if you give it permission. You must ask yourself, why am I carrying what they threw? Why are you walking around heavy with words that came from someone who doesn't even know the weight of your calling? Why are you replaying a conversation in your head from someone who was reacting out of their own insecurity, their own pain, their own fear? See, spiritual maturity is learning to filter reactions through wisdom. It's stepping back and saying, that's not about me. That's about what's going on inside of them. When you understand the context of a person's behavior, you gain the clarity to release it instead of absorb it. Think about Jesus. Oh yes, let's talk about him. Betrayed by Judas, denied by Peter, lied on by the religious leaders, beaten by Roman soldiers, mocked by the crowd. And yet he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now, if anybody had a right to be offended, it was Jesus. But he understood something deeper. They were acting from ignorance, not insight. He didn't internalize their hate because he understood their blindness. If the Son of God can rise above offense, surely you can rise above that email. Surely you can let go of that comment. Surely you can stop repeating that conversation in your mind, because the longer you rehearse it, the more deeply it roots itself in you. And internalized offense will always breed resentment, and resentment will always block revelation. You cannot carry both offense and clarity in the same spirit. You want to be unbothered. You want to walk in peace that surpasses all understanding. Then you have to stop digesting the drama. You have to start asking different questions. Not, why did they do that to me? But, what's going on inside of them that made them act that way? That's how you shift from victimhood to victory. That's how you grow. People will project their dysfunction. They'll try to drag you into their storm, but you don't have to go. Just because they invite you into chaos doesn't mean you have to RSVP. Understand it, but don't internalize it. You can love people without letting their wounds define your worth. You can be compassionate without being contaminated. Let me give you a simple truth that will set you free. You are not obligated to carry someone else's dysfunction. You can recognize their pain without making it your prison. You can acknowledge their struggle without letting it become your storm. That's not arrogance, that's wisdom. That's protection. That's emotional intelligence rooted in spiritual strength. When you internalize everything, you build walls. You start to see the world through a lens of fear and offense. But when you choose understanding, you build bridges. You remain open but protected, loving but wise, strong but soft. You stay grounded in truth without being swayed by noise. So the next time someone crosses you, pauses you, disrespects you, take a breath. Don't rush to absorb. Don't let your spirit soak up their dysfunction. Step back and say, I see the wound, but I don't need to wear it. I recognize the attack, but I refuse to host it in my heart. Because peace isn't found in people behaving how you want. Peace is found in you understanding enough to not be moved by their behavior. And the more you understand, the less you'll absorb. And the less you absorb, the freer you become. That's the key to emotional maturity. That's how you protect your peace. That's how you keep your joy. Understand, but don't internalize. There is a difference, my friend, between responding to the world and regulating the atmosphere around you. A thermometer merely reacts, it reflects the temperature of the room. But a thermostat, a thermostat takes authority. It sets the temperature, it shifts the environment, and that's exactly who you were created to be, not a passive reflector of chaos, but an active shaper of peace. Too many people are walking around in life letting everything around them dictate how they feel, how they speak, how they move. If somebody's angry, now they're angry. If someone's stressed, now they're stressed. If a coworker walks in with a bad attitude, suddenly the whole day is ruined. That's thermometer living. That's emotional reactivity. That's surrendering your spirit to the noise around you. But God didn't call you to reflect dysfunction. He called you to transform it. You are a thermostat. You were created with the power to influence, to stabilize, to anchor a room in calm when everything is swirling in chaos. You're not supposed to melt down with the world. You're supposed to stand strong in the storm. The Holy Spirit in you is not a thermometer. It's a stabilizer, a transformer, a peace setter. So how do you walk like a thermostat and not a thermometer? It starts with intention. Thermometers operate by instinct. They change automatically based on external shift. But thermostats operate by design. You must decide how you will respond before the moment comes. You don't wait until someone pushes your buttons to decide whether you'll stay calm. You predetermine in your emotional posture before the pressure arrives. And listen, this doesn't mean you fake your peace. It doesn't mean you ignore what's wrong. It means you recognize that power doesn't panic. Authority doesn't flinch. And when you walk in spiritual authority, you don't let a bad moment create a bad mindset. You don't let someone else's outburst define your atmosphere. You hold your ground. You see, the enemy wants to make you reactive, because if he can keep you reacting, he can keep you distracted. And if you're distracted, you'll miss the assignment. But thermostats don't live by reaction. They live by conviction. They speak life when there's death. They show patience where there's pressure. They walk in grace when others are grinding in fear. Let me tell you this. When you're truly walking in your purpose, you won't always find peace around you, but you'll have to bring peace with you. You'll step into rooms where the tension is thick, the stress is high, the anxiety is loud. But instead of joining the noise, you quiet it. Instead of feeding the fear, you calm it. That's what thermostats do. They regulate, they recalibrate, they restore, and it takes strength. Oh, yes, this isn't weak living. This is strong spiritual discipline. Anybody can lose their cool. Anybody can mirror the madness. But it takes a person of power to say, I will not let this get to me. I will not let this shift me. I've been through too much. I've grown too far. I've come too close to purpose to let my peace be stolen over something petty. You don't owe the world your reaction. You owe God your obedience, and sometimes obedience looks like restraint. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like smiling when your flesh wants to shout, walking away when your pride wants to fight, staying grounded when your feelings want to fly off the handle. That's thermostat strength. Remember this. Jesus was a thermostat. When the boat was rocking and the storm was raging and his disciples were losing their minds, what was he doing? Sleeping, resting, and when he got up, he didn't panic, he spoke. Peace, be still. And the winds obeyed. That wasn't thermometer behavior, that was thermostat power. And if he could speak peace to the storm, you can speak peace into your Monday. You can speak calm into your home. You can speak joy into your heart. You've got the authority. You just have to use it. So the next time tension rises, I want you to pause. I want you to ask yourself, am I just reacting, or am I responding with power? Am I letting the room shape me, or am I shaping the room? Am I allowing the atmosphere to tell me who I am, or am I stepping into the moment fully aware of the power that lives in me? Because peace doesn't just happen, it's cultivated, it's commanded, and you've been given the authority to command it. You don't have to shout to change a room. Sometimes all it takes is presence, stillness, clarity. That's what thermostats bring, and that's who you are. You are not here to echo the world's noise. You are here to declare heaven's sound. You are not here to match the temperature of your surroundings. You are here to transform them. So rise up, stand tall, set the tone, and never forget you are not a thermometer. You are a thermostat. There is a gap between what happens to you and how you respond. That space may be small, but it is sacred. And within that space lies the power to either move forward in wisdom or fall backward into regret. That space is where your destiny is shaped not by what others do to you, but by what you choose to do in return. Life will test you. People will test you. You'll be misunderstood, misquoted, mishandled, maybe even mistreated. But hear me, what happens around you does not have the authority to determine what happens within you, unless you hand over that power. And every time you react without thinking, you're handing over your authority to something or someone that didn't earn it. Reaction is automatic. It's emotional. It's impulsive. It says, you hurt me, so I'll hurt you. You disrespected me, so I'll raise my voice. You pushed my button, so now I've got to show you who I am. But let me ask you this, who are you? Are you someone who simply mirrors pain, or are you someone who transforms it? Choosing to respond instead of reacting is a mark of maturity. It says, I refuse to be a puppet on a string, controlled by what others do. I choose to operate from principle, not pressure. It is not weakness to pause. It is not cowardice to breathe. It is not defeat to be silent. Sometimes the greatest sign of power is restraint. Think about it. A reaction is often loud, but a response is always wise. A reaction says, I want to feel better now, but a response says, I want to live better later. A reaction is emotional reflex. A response is a calculated decision. Reactions cost you relationships. Reactions cost you time. Reactions cost you credibility, but a thoughtful response that can change the entire outcome. You have to understand that your emotions, while valid, are not always accurate. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to follow it. Just because anger knocks doesn't mean you have to open the door. That emotion is information, not instruction. And the problem with many of us is that we've been taught to obey our feelings like they are facts. But feelings come and go, and if you keep reacting from temporary emotions, you will damage permanent blessings. Let me take you to Scripture. Proverbs 15:1 says, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. That's the difference between response and reaction. One diffuses the fire, the other fuels it. If someone throws fire your way, don't hand them gasoline. Hand them water, cool the room, change the tone, not because they deserve it, but because you're guarding your peace. Do you understand that you were created with dominion? That means you were designed to rule, not be ruled, especially not by impulse. When God breathed life into Adam, he gave him the power to name the animals. That's symbolic. It means you have the power to define what's in front of you. You don't just accept what life gives you, you decide how you're going to frame it. And that same power can be used to decide how you respond to conflict, insult, offense, or disrespect. Some people think being reactive is being real. No, being reactive is being untrained. It takes no skill to lash out, but it takes great strength to look at a storm and speak peace. It takes growth to hear an insult and not absorb it. It takes God in you to face a situation that used to trigger you and say, "Not this time. I've come too far. I've grown too much. I choose my response. I choose my tone. I choose my reaction, and I choose peace." And hear me, choosing a response doesn't mean you don't address things. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you confront with clarity, not with chaos. You speak with purpose, not with poison. You set boundaries, but you don't lose your character in the process. That is how you stay in control of you. Because at the end of the day, people may never change. The world may never soften. But if you master yourself, you will be unshakable. Because peace isn't found in the absence of conflict, it's found in the presence of discipline. That pause between stimulus and response, that is your power. That is your protection. So the next time you feel that fire rise when someone cuts you off in traffic, when your spouse says something sharp, when your coworker gets under your skin, when a family member crosses the line, pause. Breathe, remind yourself, I have a choice. You don't have to let it escalate. You don't have to let it take your energy. You can respond in a way that protects your mind, honors your spirit, and preserves your integrity. Because what you choose in that moment reveals who you really are. Not how loud you can get, not how fast you can clap back, but how clearly you can respond when everything in you wants to react. That's power. That's growth. That's God working through you. You cannot lead your life from the basement of your emotions. You cannot make wise decisions from the ground floor of frustration, bitterness, or offense. There comes a moment in your maturity when you have to elevate above the emotion, not because you don't feel it, but because you're too focused to be fueled by it. Emotions are real. They are valid. They are human, but they are not meant to be your GPS. They are not designed to guide you. Emotions can tell you there's something happening, but they don't always tell you what's true. If you let emotions take the driver's seat, they'll always take you somewhere, but rarely where you're meant to go. It's easy to live low. It's easy to get angry. It's easy to snap back, clap back, fire back. That's low-level living, but God is calling you higher. He's calling you to rise above the noise, rise above the offense, rise above the pettiness, not because you're pretending it didn't happen, but because you're refusing to give it power over your peace. Let me make this clear. Rising above the emotion doesn't mean you're cold or numb. It means you've trained your spirit to lead your feelings, not the other way around. It means you understand that maturity is measured by how you manage yourself, not how loud you can express yourself. There's a difference between feeling it and feeding it. You can acknowledge anger without letting it explode. You can recognize frustration without letting it take the wheel. Jesus was surrounded by people who didn't get him. He was criticized, challenged, and eventually crucified, but he never let their emotions dictate his mission. Even in the Garden of Gethsemane, when his soul was troubled, when the emotion was heavy, he didn't bow to it, he rose above it. Not my will, he said, but yours be done. That's elevation, that's spiritual altitude, that's choosing destiny over distress. See, when you operate from emotion, you are pulled down into temporary reactions. But when you elevate, you make decisions based on purpose. And purpose is not emotional, purpose is eternal. If the enemy can keep you trapped in your feelings, he can keep you distracted from your future. He'll stir up offense, ignite anger, poke at old wounds not to destroy your day, but to derail your destiny. That's why you must rise, because low emotions will always fight for your attention. They'll whisper, "Did you hear what they said about you?" They'll shout, "You're not going to let that slide, are you?" They'll stir that pot and wait for you to boil. But when you elevate, you answer those voices differently. You say, yes, I heard it, but I'm not going to live beneath what I've been called to rise above. Elevating doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. It means you have learned how to take a breath before you break down. It means you've learned how to press pause when everything inside you wants to go off. That's not soft, that's strength. That's not fake, that's fruit. The fruit of the Spirit is self, control, patience, peace, and fruit doesn't grow in the fire of impulse. It grows in the soil of discipline. So when your emotions start to rise, when that heat starts to build in your chest, when the thoughts start spinning, when your jaw clenches and your heart races, breathe. Breathe and rise. Breathe and remember who you are. You are not just a body reacting to pressure. You are a soul called to purpose. You are not just someone caught in a conflict. You are someone carrying divine assignment. You don't have time to be caught up in petty arguments, drawn into cycles of drama, enslaved to what someone else said or did. No, you are going somewhere. You are building something. You are healing, growing, and becoming. And that means you can't afford to live emotionally hijacked. You need clarity. You need vision. And vision can't thrive in emotional clutter. Elevation means asking better questions. Not how do I get even, but how do I get free? Not how do I fix them, but how do I protect my peace? Because you don't get peace by controlling others, you get peace by elevating beyond what they can reach. Some people are throwing stones from places you've already outgrown. Why would you climb down to fight battles you've already won? Every day gives you a chance to rise, to take the high road, to walk with grace. And yes, it may feel lonely sometimes. The high road often is, but it is the only road that leads to peace. It's the only road where your heart stays clean and your focus stays clear. So don't be afraid to elevate. Don't apologize for choosing peace. Don't feel weak for refusing to argue. Don't let anyone shame you into reaction. You are not emotional because you're soft. You're emotional because you're human. But when you rise above the emotion, you are walking in the image of the one who created you. And that is strength. That is growth. That is power. Elevate, child of God. You were never meant to stay low. Now, beloved, hear me when I tell you you will face people who misunderstand you, situations that test your patience, and moments that tempt you to break. But the truth is, you were never meant to be ruled by reaction. You were never created to be a prisoner of your feelings. You were born with the power of choice. And today, I declare over you that you will choose peace. You will choose power. You will choose purpose over petty, destiny over drama, wisdom over war. You don't have to be a slave to your anger. You don't have to let frustration define your day. You don't have to let people's behavior rob you of your character. No matter how loud the world gets, no matter how much pressure life applies, there is a stillness inside of you. There is a thermostat, not a thermometer. There is a response, not a reaction. There is a purpose, not a panic. That's who you are. That's who you've been called to be. Because when you understand your authority, when you remember that your peace is your responsibility, you stop letting external chaos cause internal collapse. You rise. You regulate. You respond with clarity. You elevate above emotion, and you walk through the fire without getting burned. This is not about being perfect. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's about mastering what you carry. It's about deciding that your peace is too precious to hand over for free. It's about realizing that your power is not in what happens to you, but in how you handle it. So, the next time the enemy tries to bait you with conflict, the next time someone presses your buttons, tests your limits, or tries to pull you into chaos, smile, pause, breathe, and remind yourself, I am not what happens to me. I am how I rise through it. You've got too much vision to live in reaction. You've got too much purpose to stay in petty. And you've got too much God in you to be shaken by people who never built you. Walk in peace, live in power, and remember this: the storm may come, but it can't stay. Because the peace in you is greater than the pressure around you. You are unbothered. You are unshaken. You are unstoppable. God bless you.